Hello everyone. In this video we're going to start learning about basic data analysis in Minitab by using some basic data sets, calculating some descriptive statistics, and making some informative graphs that we learned throughout the module. I have to mention that this version of the Minitab that you're looking at is Minitab Express for Mac, which has limited capabilities compared to the full version. Full version is only available for Windows machines, but this Express version is perfectly sufficient for the purpose of this course. I also have to mention that the user interface in this version, which is Minitab Express, is a little different from what you see in the full version. But you can find the same buttons and options in the full version pretty easily. And I will try to give directions on how to do the same procedures in the full version throughout this demonstration. So let's go ahead and get started. You can also take a look at the Minitab exercise document that comes with these demonstrations, and looking at the questions that I posted about each data set. So let's go ahead and get started by opening a new data set here. So I'm going to go to File menu, Open Worksheet, and this is data, Excel data file that comes with this demonstration. I'm opening it. The first sheet in the Excel data set is the energy data set, so I'll be opening that. And here in this data, what we see is a list of countries and the energy consumption associated with each country in 2003. And what we want to do at first is to calculate some descriptive statistics about this data set. And what we want to calculate is the mean, median, mode, variance, standard deviation, range, minimum, maximum sample size, and the quartiles of the data. When you look at the data, it's a very small data set. So to calculate the descriptive statistics in the Minitab Express version, I'm going to go to Summary and click on Descriptive Statistics. In the full version, you would have to go to Stat menu, and under Basic Statistics, you can find the same window. So here in the Data tab, I would have to specify my variable. So looking at the data, we have two variables. One of them is countries, the other is energy. But we would like to calculate the descriptive statistics on the energy column, which is the numerical. So what I would have to do is to click here first and then double click on the energy variable. It goes right in. We'll talk about group variable later. Then I'll have to make sure that I want to calculate the statistics that are mentioned in the Minitab exercise document. So I'm calculating mean, standard deviation, variance, range, mode, minimum, maximum, and quartiles, plus median. Let's actually add the interquartile range as well. N is the sample size. N missing is if there is any missing data. It's a small data set and we see that there is no missing. If there was any country with no data point, with no energy consumption, then that would be considered as a missing data point. So this is what I want to do. I click OK, and here what you see is all those descriptive statistics calculated. So let's take a look and see what can we interpret from this. There are 24 data points. Here's the average. Well, standard deviation is pretty large, actually very large compared to the mean. So that indicates a large variability in the data. Same as variance. Minimum seems to be 1, first quartile 9, median is 41, third quartile here, and then maximum. maximum is very large compared to minimum all the way to third quartile. That means there's probably an outlier that is very large in the data, and that's why the range is too big. And IQR is the difference between Q1 and Q3. Mode cannot be calculated because the data does not have repeated numbers in it, and therefore the n for mode is 0. But what we can interpret from here is that there is a huge difference between mean and median. And this is an indication of, if you remember from the lecture, is a positively skewed data set where mean is much larger than median. So what we're going to do is to calculate the histogram, to create the histogram and make sure if our interpretation is correct. You can do the same in the full version of Minitab by going on the graph and clicking on histogram. So the type of histogram that I'm going to create here is a simple histogram and with single y variable, because the only variable that we're going to create the histogram on is the energy variable. So we have a single variable and we don't have any grouping. We'll talk about grouping later. So I would have to specify my y variable, that is energy. I just double click on that and then I hit OK. Here I'm looking at my histogram, and also gives you some basic statistics here. As we predicted, the data is positively skewed significantly with this outlier here. So if I go down the data, so this is around 4,000 or more. So and I see that there's a data point with 4,403 kilowatt, and that is associated with Asia and Oceania. Looking at the data, these are all countries. So this is probably a summation of all of those countries. So that's not an appropriate data point to be included in our histogram because it's not in the same scale of these other data points. These are just a summation of all of them. So what I'm going to do is to delete this data point. So I'm going to select it and hit delete on the keyboard. Now we got this data set. I'm going to draw the histogram again. Maybe now that we're removing this outlier, the shape of the histogram is going to be a little different. Histogram, simple, energy, hit OK. And now we're seeing again a positively skewed data point, and there's one data point here with 1,600, and that is China. So that makes sense. Now, again, we have a positively skewed histogram, and you can calculate the descriptive statistics again. Energy, make sure you have the statistics that you want. And now we're looking at the average of 191, median of 38. Now they're closer together now compared to the other one. And here in the Navigator menu, we can go to the previous one where the mean was 366. Now here also is an indication of a positively skewed data set with different numbers, of course, and a sample size of 23 compared to the previous one, which was 24. So this was the first data set that we wanted to look at. Let's actually take a look at another data set. This time, same file, and the second sheet is cotton. I'm going to open the cotton sheet. And this data set indicates, as you can see, there are, well, 64 data points in this data set, and they are percentage of cotton in material used to manufacture men's shirt. So this is the percentage of cotton in men's shirt. And it seems like they looked at 64 different shirts and they recorded the percentage of cotton. So we're going to do the same thing here. First, calculating the descriptive statistics on that. So cotton is the only variable, so selecting that, and statistics tab, variance, range. Let's throw the mode in there with the interquartile range, sample size, and hit OK. Now, 64 data points mean. Standard deviation is pretty small compared to the mean and range. So that means the data is pretty consistent around the average. Looking at the minimum and maximum, the range is about 5. It's actually 5.8. And median and mean are very close to each other. So we're probably expecting a somewhat symmetrical distribution or symmetrical histogram. But again, mean slightly more than median, which indicates we're probably going to see a slightly positively skewed histogram. And the mode is 34.7, which is the most frequent data point in the data set with 6 of them. So let's draw the histogram again. Again, it's a single Y variable, and that's cotton column. Selecting that, hit OK. And as we expected, it's slightly positively skewed with this longer tail. And you can modify this graph by changing the binning. Number of bins that you have in this histogram. You know, I can change it from 13 to 12 and so forth. And I can change it from midpoints to cut points where these numbers are indicated. You can find the same in the full version in the options and menus and buttons under histogram. So that's what we expected here, a slightly positively skewed data set. And that's it for this video.